we would never have cash around just to have cash. I mean, we would never think that we should have a cash position of X%. And frankly, I think these asset allocation things that tacticians in Wall Street put out, about 60% stocks and 30%, we think that's total nonsense. So we want to have all our money working in decent businesses, but sometimes we can't find them, or sometimes cash comes in unexpectedly, or sometimes we sell something, and we have more cash around than we would like. And more cash around than we would like means that we have 10 or 15 cents around, because we want money employed, but we'll never employ it, just employ it. And you will find us quite unhappy over time if cash just keeps building up. And I think one way or another we'll find ways to use it.
Olá, humanidade! Como vocês estão? Hoje, vamos mergulhar em uma análise profunda dos conselhos do lendário investidor Warren Buffett, um dos homens mais ricos e bem-sucedidos do planeta. Sabemos que, ao seguir os passos de alguém com tanto sucesso como Warren Buffett, podemos aprender muito sobre como evitar os erros que os investidores frequentemente cometem. Neste vídeo, vamos destacar os 5 erros mais comuns que investidores cometem, de acordo com as perspectivas e lições de Buffett. Se você deseja aprimorar suas habilidades de investimento e maximizar seus retornos, fique ligado, pois esses insights podem ser a chave para o seu sucesso financeiro. Se você é uma pessoa esperta e já pegou o primeiro erro, eu quero que você imagine um mundo financeiro onde a ideia de manter uma quantia fixa em caixa não é o padrão. Um pensamento que vai além das convenções e desafia as estratégias tradicionais de alocação de ativos. Nunca manteríamos dinheiro em caixa apenas por tê-lo, diz Warren Buffett. Às vezes, o dinheiro entra inesperadamente. Outras vezes, vendemos algo e nos vemos com mais caixa do que o planejado. É aqui que a flexibilidade entra em jogo. Mais caixa do que gostaríamos significa que temos alguns centavos disponíveis, mas nossa filosofia permanece a mesma: queremos que o dinheiro esteja em uso, de maneira inteligente e produtiva. No entanto, não somos impulsivos. Não usamos o dinheiro apenas por usar. Somos estratégicos. Queremos que cada centavo conte, que cada investimento seja bem pensado e respaldado por fundamentos sólidos. É essa abordagem que nos leva a encontrar maneiras criativas de empregar nosso capital. Essa abordagem audaciosa nos lembra que o mundo dos negócios é dinâmico, cheio de oportunidades e desafios. Manter algum caixa à mão não é sinal de inação, mas sim de prudência. É a garantia de que estamos preparados para agir quando o momento certo chegar.
You may have trouble believing this, but Charlie and I never have an opinion about the market because it wouldn't be any good and it might interfere with the opinions we have that are good. If we're right about a business, if we think a business is attractive, it would be very foolish for us to not take action on that because we thought something about what the market was going to do or anything of that sort, because we just don't know, and to give up something that you do know and that is profitable for something that you don't know and won't know because of that, it doesn't make any sense to us, and it doesn't really make any difference to us.
Em última análise, essa perspicaz reflexão de Warren Buffett nos oferece uma visão valiosa sobre como abordar os mercados financeiros. Ao reconhecer que manter uma opinião sobre o mercado em si não é produtivo, ele destaca a importância de se concentrar na avaliação sólida dos negócios individuais. A filosofia de não permitir que suposições sobre as flutuações do mercado influenciem decisões sólidas é um lembrete poderoso de que o sucesso nos investimentos é moldado pela compreensão profunda das empresas subjacentes. Agir com base no conhecimento e na convicção sobre um negócio atrativo destaca a natureza essencialmente pragmática do investimento. O que importa são os fundamentos, a análise criteriosa e a visão de longo prazo. Desviar o foco desse núcleo sólido para tentar prever movimentos de mercado seria contraproducente, já que, como Buffett habilmente observa, é uma tarefa que permanece inalcançável.
There's nothing magic. We like to put a lot of money in things that we feel strongly about. And that gets back to the diversification question. We think diversification, as practiced generally, makes very little sense for anyone that knows what they're doing. Diversification is a protection against ignorance. I mean, if you want to make sure that nothing bad happens to you relative to the market, you own everything. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that is a perfectly sound approach for somebody who does not feel they know how to analyze businesses. if you know how to analyze businesses and value businesses, it's crazy to own 50 stocks or 40 stocks or 30 stocks probably, because there aren't that many wonderful businesses that are understandable to a single human being in all likelihood. And to have some super wonderful business and then put money in number 30 or 35 on your list of attractiveness and forego putting more money into number 1 just strikes Charlie and me as madness. It's conventional practice, and if all you have to achieve is average, it's a confession in our view that you don't really understand the businesses that you own. On a personal portfolio basis, I own one stock, but it's a business I know, and it leaves me very comfortable.
Em resumo, a visão perspicaz de Warren Buffett sobre a diversificação nos incita a repensar a abordagem convencional em relação aos investimentos. Ele nos lembra que a diversificação não é uma estratégia inquestionável, mas sim uma resposta à incerteza e à falta de conhecimento. Aqueles que têm um profundo entendimento da análise de negócios podem desviar-se da abordagem de possuir uma ampla gama de ativos, reconhecendo que a verdadeira força reside na qualidade sobre a quantidade.
Volatility does not measure risk. And the problem is that the people who have written and taught about risk do not know how to measure risk. And the nice thing about beta, which is a measure of volatility, is that it's nice and mathematical and wrong in terms of measuring risk. It's a measure of volatility, but past volatility does not determine the risk of investing. I mean, actually, take it with farmland here in 1980 or in the early 1980s, farms that sold for $2,000 an acre went to $600 an acre. I bought one of them when the banking and farm crash took place, and the beta of farms shot way up. And according to standard economic theory, market theory, I was buying a much more risky asset at $600 an acre than the same farm was at $2,000 an acre. Now, people, because farmland doesn't trade often and prices don't get recorded, they would regard that as nonsense, that my purchase at $600 an acre of the same farm that sold for $2,000 an acre a few years ago was riskier. But in stocks, because the prices jiggle around every minute, and because it lets the people who teach finance use the mathematics they've learned, they have, in effect, they would explain this away a little more technically, but they have, in effect, translated past volatility in terms of all kinds of measures of risk. And it's nonsense. Risk comes from the nature of certain kinds of businesses. It can be risky to be in some businesses just by the simple economics of the type of business you're in. And it comes from not knowing what you're doing. And it is, if you understand the economics of the business in which you are engaged, and you know the people with whom you're doing business, and you know the price you pay and is sensible, you don't run any real risk. And I don't think Charlie and I, certainly at Berkshire, I don't think we've ever had a permanent loss in marketable securities that was, 1% maybe? 0.5% of net worth. I made a terrible mistake in buying Dexter Shoe, which cost us a significantly more than 1% of net worth, where I bought an entire business then. But I was wrong about the business. It had nothing to do with the volatility of shoe prices or leather or anything else. It just was wrong. But in terms of marketable securities, I cannot recall a case where we've lost. I mean, we've done a lot of things in securities that had a very high beta. We've done a lot of things in securities that had a low beta. It just, the whole development of volatility as a measure of risk, we've never found a way for it to be useful to us.
Both corporate finance and investment management courses, as taught in the major universities, we would argue it's at least 50% twaddle. Yet these people have very high IQs. One of the reasons we've been able to do pretty well is that we early recognized that very smart people do very dumb things, and we tried to figure out why. And we also wanted to know who, so we could avoid them.
A volatilidade, conforme observado por Warren Buffett, não pode ser considerada uma medida precisa de risco. A crença equivocada de que a volatilidade de um investimento, muitas vezes quantificada através do chamado beta, reflete seu risco é um equívoco comum. A realidade é que o risco inerente a um investimento deriva da complexa interação entre a natureza dos empreendimentos e a competência dos indivíduos envolvidos. Em última análise, a volatilidade como medida de risco é inadequada. Buffett enfatiza que suas próprias experiências mostram que investimentos bem-sucedidos foram feitos em ativos com altos e baixos betas. Portanto, é crucial adotar uma abordagem holística para avaliar o risco, focando na compreensão profunda do empreendimento, nas relações comerciais e na avaliação criteriosa dos preços. O legado de sabedoria de Buffett nos lembra que o verdadeiro conhecimento é a âncora que nos protege das marés incertas do mercado.
In general terms, unless you find the prices of a great company really offensive, if you feel you've identified it, and by definition, a great company is one that's going to remain great for 30 years. If it's going to be a great company for 3 years, it ain't a great company. I mean, so you really want to go along with the idea of something that if you were going to take a trip for 20 years, you wouldn't feel bad leaving the money in with no orders with your broker and no power of attorney or anything, and you just go on the trip and you come back and it's going to be a terribly strong company. I think it's better just to own them. I mean, we could attempt to buy and sell some of the things that we own that we think are fine businesses, but they're too hard to find. We found See's Candy in 1972, where we find here and there we get the opportunity to do something, but they're too hard to find. So to sit there and hope that you buy them in the throes of some panic, that you sort of take the attitude of a mortician, waiting for a flu epidemic or something. I mean, I'm not sure that will be a great technique. That's a lot to count on, and if you start with the Dow at X and you think it's too high, when it goes to 90% of X, do you buy? Well, if it does and it goes to 50% of X, it gets, you never get the benefit of those extremes anyway, unless you just come into some accidental sum of money at some time. So I think the main thing to do is find wonderful businesses. So we've had our share of flu epidemics, but you don't want to spend your life waiting around for them.
Uma estratégia sólida de investimento envolve a alocação de recursos em empresas de alta qualidade, capazes de manter sua robustez ao longo de décadas. A tentativa de prever quedas de preços por meio do timing do mercado, muitas vezes impulsionada pelo pânico, pode não ser uma abordagem eficiente. Priorizar a descoberta de empresas excepcionais para investir supera em importância a tentativa de compra e venda com base nas oscilações do mercado. O objetivo principal é identificar aquelas empresas que têm a capacidade de se manterem resilientes no longo prazo.
When people said cash is king a year ago, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, cash wasn't producing anything, and it was sure to go down in value over time. On the other hand, you always want to be sure you have enough. I mean, it's like oxygen. You want to be sure it's around, but you don't need to have excessive amounts of it around.
Espero que esse vídeo tenha lhe sido útil e te ajudado de alguma forma. Não se esqueça de se inscrever se você quiser melhorar a sua vida financeira. Deixe o seu like se gostou do conteúdo. Até a próxima, humano!